Okay, so I guess the moral of this story is don't get tattoos of power tools. I can live with that. Literally.
This is a slaughterhouse.
Are you aware that Dee's asked that all his art be destroyed?
I can't save you.
Velvet Buzzsaw is directed by Dan Gilroy, and it's a reteam with him, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Rene Russo. The last time they collaborated was the incendiary Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was a film that I loved to hate and hated to love, and I mean that in the most affectionate way possible. By the time I was finished watching that movie, I felt dirty. I felt like I wanted to take a shower. It was such a disgusting film. And I think the reason why I felt that way was because, unfortunately, the stuff that we saw portrayed in that film felt like the kind of thing that you would actually expect does happen in probably some of the deepest, most sordid corners of mass media. I was like, oh god, I hate being on this world. Because the movie made me feel that way, I loved it. I loved it for that reason. So when I found out that all of them were reteaming for another movie, this time taking a stab at the art world, I got incredibly excited. We've also got Toni Collette, we've got John Malkovich, and we've got Zoe Ashton, who Doctor Who fans will remember from the episode Into the Dalek when she played Journey Blue. Ashton in particular stands out among the rest and right up there with a lot of these seasoned veterans. Actually, I'd say in this movie probably has one of the most interesting character arcs. Now, the real triumph of this movie, first off, and I think this carries over from Nightcrawler, is the sense that every single one of these characters in this movie, none of them are in any way characters that you would ever want to hang out with. None of them are at all virtuous. They all have some kind of vice that just makes them utterly loathsome. But because of the characterizations and because the characters are so much fun to watch, just because of how despicable they are, the entertainment value is seeing people that if you ever met them in real life you'd want to punch, and seeing them in a horror movie scenario. And that's the thing, that's the central element that keeps you watching all the way through, is seeing these people who are pretentious, self-absorbed, selfish, backstabbing, pretty much for the most part get theirs. I suppose that's a spoiler, but really in a horror film you're going to expect a lot of these people to get there. Zoe Ashton plays Josephine, who's an assistant to an art dealer played by Rene Russo. Well, one day she goes back to her apartment and finds a dead old man who she didn't realize was one of her neighbors, and she goes into his apartment to discover thousands upon thousands of paintings, and some of the paintings, suspiciously, are in the fireplace. And thinking nothing of it, she salvages some of the paintings, shows them off to an art critic played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is, you could probably imagine Anton Ego from Ratatouille. You could imagine if he took up art, you'd imagine that's who Jake Gyllenhaal's character is. Gyllenhaal, this is another career best for him. It is a hilarious performance he gives. And also, I gotta say, his arc in the film is particularly interesting too, from where he starts to where he ends up. That's all I'm gonna leave it with. But Gyllenhaal, it's another career best for him. I cannot wait to see how he does with Mysterio, but in particular, I loved him in this one. So she shows the paintings to Jake Gyllenhaal, and he is blown away by these paintings, and immediately word gets out that this artist is this unsung hero, basically could be the next Van Gogh, because no one knew he existed, and of course, like any real great artist, no one really realizes who they are until they're dead. And his paintings are the hottest thing. Galleries want to show them off. People want to buy them. Except there's a bit of a hitch. You see, the paintings are possessed. They have something of a malign influence on the world around them and on the people who look upon them. And very soon, people start dropping off. People who intend to sell it, people who intend to profit off these paintings are all of a sudden going around dying in some horribly grisly ways. And I will say it does make for some visually interesting horror sequences. But that being said, it's not a particularly scary film. It is a good premise for a horror film, and it carries the premise through to its peak, and even ends on a really great foreboding note, kind of almost like the ending of Cabin Fever. And That's great, but you get the feeling that Dan Gilroy is first and foremost wanting to make a film that takes a stab at the art industry and less about actually being a horror film. I never felt really scared by the movie. I never felt really provoked by the horror sequences. I was enthralled. I was having a great time watching them. But I didn't feel like, oh my god, that was traumatizing. I wasn't feeling, oh my god, I nearly pissed myself. Good thing this is a vinyl chair. That didn't deter me from going, this is still an incredibly entertaining film with stellar performances. The only performance, not because the performance is bad, but because we don't get enough of it, is John Malkovich. He plays a veteran artist who is kind of getting burned out. And he almost disappears for a good chunk of the movie. You actually never see him again until the closing credits, which I suppose answers everything regarding his character, but even then I didn't feel like they did enough with him in order to flesh out what the deal was. And you do kind of feel it's a bit of a waste of Malkovich to even have his character in this one. You even kind of feel his character is surplus to requirement, particularly since there's another artist character, a street artist character, who also in a way has a similar arc. You could even say in a similar place than as Malkovich's character. So really you kind of feel Malkovich's character is surplus. You feel like his character is extraneous. And that's really a shame. Renee Russo, I am delighted that I'm seeing a lot more of Renee Russo. Right next to Gyllenhaal, her performance in Nightcrawler really even balanced out that film, and it was one of the major factors that really brought together why Nightcrawler was such a provocative film. Here she actually gets a lot more focus this time around, and even has, for my money, one of the best character resolutions in a horror film that is on one side both visually stunning and simultaneously phantom pain inducing. It's at the dead end of the film, and it's one of the things that really made me go, oh. So the big question, how does this film measure up compared to Nightcrawler? I'd say this one isn't as sharp and it's not as intense as Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is definitely a straight out drama with some heavy satirical overtones. This one is a dark comedy, a really funny dark comedy with horror elements, and I think that is its strength, but because it seems to not take it as seriously, I don't feel it's as edgy as Nightcrawler was. But nevertheless, this film is still incredibly entertaining, even with some of the shortcomings when it comes to trying to be different in the terms of horror, and because of some subplots that may have been surplus to requirement. Either way, that is still enough for me to want to give Velvet Buzzsaw a Narcotic Casserole rating of... Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think this is way better than Nightcrawler, or do you think that this is a mediocre follow-up by comparison? Leave it in the comments below. Check this movie out. It's on Netflix. Meanwhile, while you're watching Narcotic Casserole, check out our Cinema Schlock prologue, where we did a Serbian film where I crossed over with That Miss Quinn. If we want to talk about a film that is going to burn itself into my brain for the foreseeable future, I will definitely say Serbian film was it. So if you want to see if the founder survived that ordeal, go check that video out. And also, keep your eye on Cinema Schlock Society, because after that incident, the founder is going to collect on a debt that he laid down in the Flash Gordon episode. So, we've got a lot of great stuff to come. We're even going to have some more episodes of Rare Delicacies coming with me and Brett. We're also going to have some new YouTubers and podcasters that are going to pop up in the foreseeable future. So, keep it all here. Like, share, subscribe, click. Thou shalt be served.
I'm quite curious to know what you think.
I think sober hasn't been good for him.
Pierce was in the full bloom of alcoholism here.
Exactly.
Never should have quit drinking.